discussed about this. We discussed about the whole situation on the whole planet, actually. We discussed how US is going to different countries. They're invading different countries. They're going to like South American countries. They did the same thing in Africa, and they want to do the same thing in Iran and with the Greenland as well. And then I was giving them a solution. I was like, with Iran, actually, right? Is using the weapons is actually invading the country the best idea? Maybe that's not the best idea, because first of all, you do want to liberate the people from the government. The government is not the best government. We know that, right? So what's the best solution? Actually, you don't want to be going there. There shouldn't be any sort of like direct foreign intervention. There shouldn't be any weapons used, because that would be against the UN law. So tariff might be a better idea. And now we know that Donald Trump is actually, forget about Iran. They're saying Donald Trump is threatening 25% tariff on European allies until Denmark sells Greenland to USA. So that's the move that Trump is actually making. First of, I mean, initially when Trump actually talked about it, and it was a bad negotiation tactic, I think. In the meeting, he actually said that the last resort would actually be attacking Greenland, like would be like the direct foreign intervention. And Trump said he wouldn't shy away from it. But it just seems like they're coming to the solution of tariffs. Like the U.S. government is taking that route, which is, I think, to be honest, I'm not saying it's like the best policy, but it's a less dangerous, or like a less worse policies of the two. So, heads of the state across Europe respond in solidarity with Denmark and Greenland, and boycott of World Cup suggested. So they're boycotting the World Cup as well. And I know for a fact that thousands of people actually, maybe, yeah, thousands of people have actually canceled the tickets. Canceled the tickets. And I'm not just talking about the European countries. I'm talking about like a lot of countries, and it's because of the immigration laws as well. Like whatever ICE is doing, the killings of the killings of the people on the in the by the hands of ICE. There's a lot of concerns going on, right? And a lot of people are actually getting deported as well back to the country. So there were concerns of the people to actually come to USA. They didn't want to do that, because that could actually be very tricky. So thousands of people actually canceled their tickets. But now it's because of tariffs as well. Now because of Greenland. The people don't want to go there. And by the way, I was watching a video of Nick Shirley actually going to Greenland, and actually asking the people of Greenland, like, whether do you want to be under the Denmark rule, or do you want to be under the USA rule? And it seemed like most of the people actually wanted to be under Denmark rule. They want like a separate state of Greenland, like that would be the first priority, but no way they want their country to actually be sold to USA. And Nick was like, what if I pay you like 100,000? If USA makes like a deal of like 4 billion or 5 billion, like that's the amount of money that we're giving you, would you actually live under the USA rule? Which means that every single person is in Greenland is getting like 100,000. I think it was something like this, something crazy. But like everybody was like, no amount of money can actually buy that. Like, we're not gonna give Greenland to USA. That's not gonna happen. So it just seems like the people of Greenland, they actually want to live under the rule of Greenland, and they're very confident that there wouldn't be any sort of foreign intervention, because they trust in NATO. They believe that NATO is going to be able to save them anyway. So now Trump is making a second move, which is like Donald Trump threatened a 25% tariff on a slew of European countries, including Denmark, Germany, France, and UK. And most of the countries are the ones that are actually backing UN. They're backing Greenland in that case. Like some of the countries, I say Germany and France, they said it directly. Like, if US actually comes to Greenland, if you put your arms down, we're gonna attack US. That's gonna happen straight after that. They were pretty open about this. And then Denmark was saying the same kind of thing. Sweden was getting its forces ready. So until the US is allowed to purchase Greenland, in an extraordinary escalation of the president's bid to claim the autonomous Danish territory. And by the way, I was discussing the whole situation of like Denmark getting the Greenland in 1300s or 1400 something from Norway, because it was under the rule of Norway before that. And the treatment of Greenlandic people by Denmark, actually, it's not the best treatment, by the way. Even if you go like a few years ago, like 5, 6 years ago, there were cases that they were relocating people to different locations. And uh, people in Greenland, they were more like native sort of people, right? So their way of making money was through hunting. They were hunting seals, they were hunting fish. So what they actually did is they moved most of those people to like a very small location, which is called Nuuk, which is the capital of Greenland. That's the capital of Greenland, and they're flats over there. So there's not much they could do. Those people could not make a lot of money. Those people were stuck inside the houses, although they were getting aid, the financial aid. But is that the way you actually want to live your life? And that's why the suicide rates actually went up pretty high, because men in their 20s didn't have anything to do, and that's why they started committing the suicides. And plus, Greenland doesn't have sunlight, so there's months that they go without sunlight, so that causes a lot of depression as well. And the native were not getting the best treatment also in terms of like the finances. Like they were not making the same amount of money as like people who were going from Denmark. People who were going from Denmark were getting way, they were getting paid more than the native population, and they were having more facilities just overall. Okay, so in a lengthy post on Saturday on Truth Social, Trump said that he would impose a 10% tariff on Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, Netherlands, and Finland, beginning 1st of February, on any and all goods sent to the United States of America. So that's going to be big. Do you actually want to do it, to be honest? He said that the tariff will increase to 25% on 1st of June. So he's given a timeline as well, like until 1st of June is 10%, and then after 1st of June, that's going to be like 25%. This tariff will be due and payable until such time as the deal is reached for the complete and total purchase of Greenland, Trump said. The president's long-standing interest in acquiring Greenland one way or the other has become a fixation since the U.S. raid that captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro early in January. While he has claimed the Arctic territory's current status poses a national security threat to the USA, and this has been disputed by US allies, including Denmark. I mean, we have talked about this so many times. It wasn't a direct threat. It wasn't like Russia or China was just going to invade Greenland, and you had NATO to defend it. So that should have been the last resort. I don't know what the fuss is about, actually. This is Donald Trump just bullshitting over here. In the Saturday Morning Post, Trump said forces from the 8 European nations have journeyed to Greenland for purposes unknown. It was an apparent reference to NATO allies deploying troops to Greenland. I mean, that's why it's putting the tariffs on, to be honest. So the forces from 8 countries, I'm pretty sure it's going to be United Kingdom, there's France, Germany, there's Sweden, Denmark, and like a few more countries, in response to Trump's threat to forcefully take the Arctic island, which is an autonomous territory of Denmark. I mean, at the moment, it's an autonomous territory of Denmark, but I think Greenlandic people also want like full autonomy over their own country, which they were probably going to get in like a few months. They were trying to make deals about it. You know what? If Trump can actually get them free, why a negotiation? So I don't actually mind it. The president's statement comes as a surprise. Lars Rasmussen, Denmark's foreign minister, responded on social media earlier this week. We had a constructive meeting with Vice President Vance and Secretary to Rubio. The purpose of the increased military presence in Greenland, to which the president refers, is to enhance security in the Arctic. I mean, that is such a bullshit argument. What security do they need? This is bullshit, bro. Every insult, threat, tariff, and lie that we receive strengthens our resolve. Rasmus Jarlov, the conservative chair of Denmark's Defense Committee, wrote in more direct language, the answer from Denmark and Greenland is final. We will never hand over Greenland. I mean, they're not going to hand over Greenland, man. I was watching the interview with Nick Shelley yesterday as well. He was talking about exactly the same thing. He interviewed so many people from Greenland, and every single one of them, like, there's no way we're giving Greenland to USA. We pray our true allies will stand with us because we are going to need it. Now the question is, does Europe actually have good enough military forces to capable enough of facing USA when you have Russia on inside Europe as well in East? So there's that threat as well. Do you actually want to do it? I'm not sure about it. The tariff threat against NATO allies united the leaders of those nations in unusually blunt language after months of treading carefully for fear of triggering the volatile US president's range. In response to Trump's comments on Saturday, the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, what a Danish name that is, said in a statement that the Europeans have consistently underlined our shared transatlantic interest in peace and security in the Arctic, including through NATO. The pre-coordinated Danish exercise conducted with the Allies responds to the need to strengthen Arctic security and poses no threat to anyone. Bullshit again. The EU stands in full solidarity with Denmark and the people of Greenland, she added, tariffs would undermine transatlantic relations and risk a dangerous downward spiral. Okay, I don't know who is benefiting more from the relationships, to be honest. I don't know who is trading more. I know that UK is actually importing a lot of stuff from USA because we don't actually deal with the EU anymore. We don't import a lot of stuff from the European countries because, yeah, I mean, they're paying a lot of taxes now. So, but I don't know which way we're doing more. I don't know if we're importing more from the USA, or I don't know if we're exporting more to USA. So we can actually look more into this. Because I'm thinking at the same time, like United States must be benefiting some from it because they wouldn't be putting tariffs without any reasons. Okay, so this is what we're getting. The UK's trade with the USA is substantial, with the recent data of 2024, 2025 showing total trade in goods and services reaching over $300 billion annually, with UK exports to the US around $204 billion goods and services, and imports around $127 billion in the year to 2025. So we are actually exporting more to USA and we are importing less. So our exports to USA are $204 billion and our imports from the USA are $127 billion. I mean, so if there's going to be tariff on any business that you're actually doing, that's probably not going to help USA that much, to be honest. Making the US the UK's largest export partner for services and second for goods with after Germany. And then Germany actually does a lot of business with the US as well, though the US is the biggest simple country partner overall. Yes, yes. I mean, I know about us, like, because we're not doing that much trade with Europe at the moment, so that's why we have to do a lot of trade with USA. Key exports include pharmaceuticals, vehicles, and financial business and services, while major imports often involve machinery, aircraft, and other goods. Machinery, aircraft, yeah, understandable. Okay, and now I'm just gonna check how would the tariffs actually affect the UK. 25%. Mm. Oh my god, it's blocked. Okay, Donald Trump has introduced wide-ranging tariffs on goods imported to the USA, including from the UK. Tariffs are taxes on imports, which are paid by importing business in the country where they apply. Uh, the UK and the US governments announced the general terms of an economic prosperity deal aimed at mitigating the impact of US tariffs on UK industries and deepening bilateral economy ties. The terms of the agreement have only been partially implemented so far. Well, I want to read about the new ones, the ones from like now. Okay, so from 17th of October, there's a 25% tariff on medium and heavy duty trucks and truck parts. Okay, that is actually something else. So at the moment, I don't think there is much information about the tariffs, to be honest. Like Trump has just threatened, he said that he would actually implement those tariffs, but I don't think those tariffs have been implemented yet, and I don't think there's much information about like what goods they're going to be doing that. Maybe on everything. Yeah, it's saying a 10% tariff could reduce GDP in those economies by around 0.1%, while a 25% tariff could knock 0.2 to 0.3% of the output. So that would actually be bad. This is the one that I want to read actually. Okay, how they will impact the US and the UK economy actually in specific. That's what we're going to be reading because I live in UK. Mm-hmm. Okay, Mr. Trump said that he wants to take over the island because of his strategic Arctic location and mineral wealth. He said the UK could be hit with additional tariffs from next month if it maintains its opposition to the move. So additional tariffs, which makes me think there's going to be tariff on top. Am I ready for war, bro? Trump is like Putin, just threatens people and country like Putin threatening Germany and Britain with nukes. Yeah, but the only problem with Trump is like, right, Trump is not just threatening, Trump is also doing something, right? Which I don't agree with, to be honest. Like, look at Venezuela, look at like what he did in Venezuela, like how supportive he was in Palestine to Israel, like how many weapons he was supporting to Israel. And that was the president that actually did his whole campaign based on the fact that he was not going to be doing any sort of foreign intervention. And that's not what we're getting, by the way. So I mean, this is what I'm a little bit worried about it. And then you're saying ready for war in 2027. I mean, we might be seeing that, to be honest. Like the way the conditions are going in Europe, I mean the tariffs are is a policy that he's implementing. Well, what if the Europe doesn't actually bow down to the tariffs? What if like okay, apply the tariffs, you have 10% tariff until June, and then after June you have like 25%, but Europe is like, okay, we're not gonna give you Greenland. And then after like a year or something, Trump is like fed up with this. Trump is like, oh, I thought they were gonna bow down to me by hearing about the tariffs, but it's not actually working out. Like they're still going. Then Trump might actually attack the Greenland as like a because he said that would be the last resort. And then he's like, I need to get it. And then you have the NATO completely going crazy, just falling down because there's like 8 countries that have already said that they have sent their forces to Greenland, by the way. So then you're going to have a war between the European countries itself versus America. And then which side is the UK going to support actually? Because a lot of our imports and exports are actually from USA. So are we going to be siding with Europe or are we going to be siding with the USA? Most probably Europe because Europe is like close to us. And then at the same time, Russia is going to see that we are weak. You know, the whole purpose of NATO was to oppose Russia. And then when Russia sees NATO as like weak, they're probably going to attack us as well. And then that's it, man. You know what? I feel like the world is fucked, bro. It's difficult. It's a difficult situation right now. Okay, so Keir Starmer urged the USA to avoid military action or trade war, calling for the issues to be resolved through calm discussion between the allies. And tariffs, and then they're giving us the definition of tariffs. They're saying tariffs are the taxes on products imported into a country. So I mean, USA is actually importing more stuff from the UK into the country. So there's going to be tariff on those products, which means I don't know how much USA is benefiting from it. There's gonna be like a decrease in the economy of US as well at the same time. They're typically charged as a percentage of the price as buyer pays a foreign seller. It means a US company buying a product from a UK supplier would now have to pay an additional amount, such as 10% to the state on top of the original price. Yes, I get it. Because, you know, when you're implementing the tariffs in the country, you're still selling the products at the same price for like a period of time, right? But then to make up for the price, you're gonna have to pay. The companies would have to pay extra price, which is not good, and which also means, by the way, that the prices will actually go up in the long run. So there's going to be more inflation in USA. So nobody's actually benefiting from it. Ugh. Who pays them? The companies buying the imported goods pay the tariffs. In this case, it means US firms will have to pay more for international goods from countries affected. Mr. Trump has used his tariff policies to encourage US firms to buy products manufactured within the country and therefore avoid the additional tax. Um, okay, so basically, Trump is suggesting that we should actually be buying the products that are manufacturing in the country. You know what? I don't hate the idea if US can actually produce the products, but that's the thing. Like USA does not have the ability to produce a lot of the products. Oh shit. Hmm. He's raising money for the war chest that will be used in 2027. Yeah, yeah, man. That's the thing with like the weapon companies as well, right? USA has a lot of weapon companies, and their military budget is like super high. So the weapon companies actually have to keep the wars in progress, because if the war stop, then you're not going to be selling the weapons. Like, what's going to happen to the weapon companies? They're going to go out of business. Said they want the wars to happen. It's the companies as well. Like, there's pressure from the companies. They want something to be happening. And 2027, I could see that happen. I could see, like, do you see the situation around the whole world? So we're talking about like the South American countries. There's a lot going on. Like, you saw what happened with Venezuela. Trump is already talking about Cuba. He's talking about like other South American countries. There's things going on in Argentina right now. You heard about that one? There's protests going on in Argentina. I mean, Chile's president is also worried about it. They think they're like Mossad agents actually in Argentina. And then the Middle Eastern situation, you already know what's happening in Middle East, right? Iraq is not back to normal. You have Iran is on the verge of breaking down as a country, and I mean, the civilians are not happy with the government right now. If the country you're in goes to war, will you fight for the country you live in? That's you know what, I like that question actually. That's a hard question. So I'm living in the UK, and the thing is, I was born in Pakistan, so I wasn't born in the UK. So would I actually fight for the country? Do I think that my country is actually fighting for the right cause? I don't know if my country is fighting for the right cause or not, but I will actually fight for the country, because I think if you're living in a country, that's something that you have to do. Because for me personally, my family is also living here. It's not just me. So if it was like me, and then my family was living in a different country, and then my country was going against the country that my family was living in, it was the opposite cause, then it would have been a difficult situation. It would have been a different situation. But because I have myself and my family living in this country, I think I would have to. Like, personally, as a grown man, I think it's a responsibility of a person to actually to do whatever the best thing is that you can do, right? Like, I'm not sure if I know how to use the weapons or whatever, but whatever little training that you can get or add to the help of the country to actually win the war, I think I would personally do that. Would you actually? And which country are you living in, by the way? And would you actually do the same thing? I understand the other side of argument as well. Like, some people actually believe that my country is not even helping me out. So why the fuck would I go to the army, and why the fuck would I fight? But the thing is, the fight doesn't just um, depends on which country is attacking you. If Russia is actually attacking you, it's not like you have a choice. You have to sort of fight, because they're still gonna come to your territory. They're still gonna arrest you. They're still gonna then you're gonna be slaves. If you don't fight, then you're gonna be slaves. So it doesn't really help you. I think in the long term, you have to be able to fight. Okay, in the UK, this means any tariff is paid to His Majesty's Revenue and Customs when goods enter the UK. In the US, tariffs are collected by the Customs and Border Protection agents at ports of entry across the country, such as airports and ports. Companies can determine the tariff cost of a product by working out a 10-digit HTS code, which is an internationally recognized standard used for the categorization of goods by custom officials. Um, okay, so we're gonna look at the tariffs currently. So we are still paying tariffs, by the way, but I think this 10% tariff is gonna be on top of the tariffs that we're paying, and then from 1st of June, it's gonna be 25%, which is gonna be a lot. So that's gonna be really bad for the UK economy. I think there's gonna be like a fall of 0.2 to 0.3% in UK's economy. So things are gonna go even more expensive. Mm, I live in Scotland, and to be honest, I would fight if the war was at my door. I'm not fighting for my country if it's not truly for my country. Um, no, I completely get the logic as well, right? Like, if it's sort of a war where you know that your country is actually fighting for the bad cause. Let's say if your country is actually fighting for the bad cause, and you know that you do have a choice to not fight, like your family is not directly threatened, they're not actually directly trying to bomb your family, or the soldiers aren't directly coming to your door to actually kill your family, right? Then, yeah, then you can possibly, I can understand the logic that you don't have to fight for the country as long as you believe it's not for the just cause. But let's say it's like a Russian army, and they're invading your country, and they're actually coming at your door, and you have to protect yourself and your family. In that case, I guess there's not much choice. As like a grown man, you're gonna have to be the one actually going there and taking action. So, um, yeah, I do understand the logic. Yeah, I don't think that's the wrong logic. Because a lot of people actually make that argument as well. If my country's not doing much for me, like, what's the point of me doing? And I can understand that argument. I can understand that from a perspective. I can understand it. Like if you think that you're putting in a lot of work for your country and your country is not doing much in return, you're just getting bashed every day. That's not a good. That's not a good thing. What do you think about the whole situation right now? What do you think about the situation of Iran and Venezuela? By the way, Iran's situation is a complicated situation because if you talk to the Iranians themselves, most of the people in Iran actually do want the regime change. They're not happy with it. They think their women are oppressed. They think they don't have the right to criticize the government. Anytime they do criticize the government, it's like they're getting hanged, and there's a lot of things going on. So, what do you think about that? Do you think the foreign intervention is actually a good idea, or is it like acceptable mode in that case with the Iranians? Okay, okay. Broadly speaking, the U.S. imported a 10% tariff on top of all previously existing tariffs and duties. Last year, 2025, economic prosperity deals secured tariff exemptions for UK steel, aluminum, aerospace, and cars. Although many of these only cover a certain quota of products, what is Mr. Trump threatening? Mr. Trump said that he would chain the UK, charge the UK a 10% tariff on any and all goods sent to the US from February 1st. Oh, from February 1st. Today is like 19th of January, so there's only like a few days to go. In 10 days, we're going to be paying tariffs. He would impose this on Denmark and European allies opposed to his plans, who currently also include France, Germany, Netherlands, Finland, Norway, Sweden. It is not known how this will affect products which are currently exempt from tariffs. Currently, countries such as UK that have high exposure to the US could see their economic growth hit by tariff plans. And you know why this could be actually bad? Because this is really bad because it's not even that the products are going to be expensive. Obviously, there are going to be products that are going to be expensive in both UK and USA because these are the countries that are doing business with each other. They're doing the imports, they're doing the exports, and there's going to be tariffs charged, right? But the way it's going to hit them bad in a long term is because those companies in USA will become independent because now they're not doing business with UK, so they have to buy more internal products, which means there's going to be more internal manufacturers. So the factories that are actually making the products, they're going to be making more of the products now because the internal companies don't have a choice. They have to buy the products from inside, which means that they might not even come back to buying those things from you. That might not even happen. They might just get used to buying the products. They might there might be like a definitive increase in the production inside the country itself. The introduction of tariffs is often inflationary for both countries affected by the Mayer. Economists at the bank suggested that the renewed threat of trade war, however, could disrupt the UK's swift disinflation process, in which inflation dropped to 3.2% in November last year. A renewed threat of trade war actually decreased it. Inflation dropped to 3.2 in last year. Okay, wow. I didn't know that. I didn't know that the inflation actually dropped. Okay, so we're going back to potential impacts have intensified. Okay, some economists also argue that the tariffs could actually help. I didn't know they could help in any way, but according to them, it could help reduce the US trade deficit and support domestic production by shifting income from the consumer to the producer. That's what I was saying. Like in the long run, it could be actually very good for the USA because they would become more dependent on the internal production, which means the factories are going to have to buy more products from the internal factories. Sorry, businesses would have to buy more products from the internal factories, which means that the internal factories would have to produce more products, which means they're going to be less dependent on the countries outside, so from the imports from other countries. So you know what? In the hindsight for USA, it could actually be a good thing. But does the US actually have sources? Do they have all the resources to do that much production? That's the question. However, critics, including NIESR, highlights the broader second round effects that tariffs may trigger through exchange rates, inflation, and the interest rates. The specifics of Trump's policies remain. Did you get me message? No, I don't know. You mean the comment that you actually dropped, or like a message? Is like, I don't know how to check the messages. I don't even know if you could message on like YouTube. Was that like a comment that you dropped, or is there like a way that you could directly message? Oh, you mean that like I don't really know, man. I don't really know. Oh, by the way, did you did you refer to that? Did you refer to the jewelry? Is that what you meant? Because it could be like a code, right? I know there are things that you can't comment. They will be taken off. Okay, so with proposals ranging from 25% tariffs on goods from neighbors like Mexico and Canada, 200% tariffs on imports through BRICS countries. Oh my God, 100% tariffs on imports from BRICS countries. I know USA is not actually a big fan of like the BRICS, and that's why they hated Venezuela as well, because Venezuela was going to become part of BRICS. They were going to do business with China and Russia and all of those countries, and USA did not like it because the value of the dollar is already down. It was going to go down even more. While the details are still unfolding, understanding the macroeconomics mechanisms at play is essential for interpreting their potential consequences. On recent report on the global macroeconomic implications of higher US tariffs. Okay, I was actually putting your comment. I was putting your comment on Google actually to just check what it means. I mean, it could either mean what I thought it meant, or it could also mean like some sort of like suspicion or something. I don't really know, to be honest, man. Mm, mm. Okay. Okay, let me check the latest news on that. Let me check what is latest in the politics right now with Donald Trump in Greenland. Donald Trump. Okay, Donald Trump is saying he's linking the Greenland dispute to not getting a Nobel Peace Prize. He's so mad about not getting a Nobel Peace Prize. He's like, I'm gonna get my Nobel Peace Prize, and I'm not getting it just because I said that. So this guy actually does believe that he should have been the rightful owner. He should have been the rightful recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. He should have been the one getting it. I can't believe that. How could Europe respond to Trump's tariffs threat? We already read about this. Okay, let me check actually. I'm gonna read this because I want to see like we need to have a counter to everything, right? Trump actually came with a counter. He knew that we were not taking the offer, so he came back with a counter, and he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna put the tariffs on, bitches. You guys are gonna bow down to me." And I want to see what counter Europe has actually got, because we gotta have something. So as we know, there were 8 European countries that wanted to support Greenland. So France, Germany, part of the group of eight, which includes the UK, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and the Netherlands. I don't blame Norway, Sweden because they're so close to Greenland. So obviously they're going to be feel threatened as well, and Finland as well, and Netherlands have said the European Union should be ready to act if Trump goes ahead with the taxes. But what options does Europe have in response to the US? Okay, less than 6 months ago, the US and the EU agreed a deal that was supposed to stabilize transatlantic trade and provide certainty to business and consumers. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen came away from President Trump's golf course in Scotland with tariffs of 15% on everything the EU sells to the US, far better than the 30% America had threatened. Mm, along the way, Brussels also prepared a package of tariffs that would come into force if it was unable to reach an agreement with the USA. Okay, so by the way, I think they're going to do the tariff back. So they're like, okay, you want to put the tariffs on all things? We're going to tariff you back. Motherfuckers. It included tariffs on everything from livestock to aircrafts, parts to whiskey, totaling $93 billion worth of goods that the US sells to the EU. The high level agreement means that those taxes were suspended while details were worked out, and the European Parliament was set to ratify the EU US trade deal next week. But within hours of Trump's threat, influential German MEP Manfred Weber said that approval is not possible at this stage. Without the EU signing off on last year's deal and extending the suspension, the tariff on $93 billion of goods, that is unbelievable. We are actually importing 93 billion. That's not even dollar, not even pound. That's like a euro. Goods will kick in on 7th of February. That risks a political backlash in the US for Trump from companies that export to Europe. As for his threats to tariff on some but not all EU countries, the Commission said that while it was technically possible, it would be very difficult to implement, given the number of the times goods across EU borders before they are exported to the USA. What is the bazooka trade, by the way? The so called bazooka trade, officially known as the anti coercion instrument, is a law that allows the European Union to respond to the economic blackmail from non EU countries. All right, they have like a special trade name for that to counter the non to counter the tariffs from like the non EU members. Specifically, it targets trade and investment measures by countries who are seen to interfere in the legitimate sovereign choices of the EU or its member states. The response can include a vast swath of trade measures such as tariffs, import and export restrictions, curbs on trades and services, as well as reduced access to banking and capital markets. I mean, if there's restrictions on the banking and capital markets, I guess that would be a good solution. Ultimately, it allows the EU to block access to most of the single market while ignoring existing international treaties. However, this is the nuclear option. The real purpose of the bazooka is to bring other countries to the negotiating table. Actually, deploying it would cause serious economic damage within the EU itself. So it is seen very much a last resort. It is also not a rapid response measure. Under the current rules, the European Commission can spend up to 4 months investigating any alleged coercion. Another 6 months can be spent negotiating within the country coerced concern and deciding whether there's a case for retaliation. The EU member states have up to 10 weeks to authorize any action. So even if the Commission were to pull the trigger now, it could be a year before the bazooka is actually fired. So I mean, it takes time to fire the bazooka. It's going to take them a year to fire the bazooka. So I don't know how productive that would be right now because you're going to have to look at the time as well. What about the UK? Prime Minister Keir Starmer has made it clear that he wants to avoid a trade war with Trump, more or less ruling out immediate retaliatory tariffs against the US in a speech on Monday, while he said Trump should not be using the threat of trade taxes against allies as the way. Keir Starmer also said our tariff was in nobody's interest. He continued, "We have not got to that stage, and my focus therefore is making sure that we don't get to that stage." Okay, Keir Starmer's a little bit worried. He's got a few concerns. There are other levers of the government could use if the UK, the EU, and the US are unable to reach an accord over Greenland. The UK could, for example, increase the digital services tax, potentially affecting some of the America's largest tech companies like Amazon and Meta. Uh, the owners of the Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook, I think that would actually affect them a lot because these owners actually have a lot of power. You're looking at Facebook and WhatsApp. Mark Zuckerberg holds a lot of power in the USA. That would affect him and Instagram, of course, and Meta and Amazon. The tax rate is currently 2% and is charted against tech giants with sales of 500 million worldwide and 25 million in the UK. But at this stage, so much is unclear, including the legality of some Trump tariffs. The US Supreme Court is set to rule on whether the president overstepped his authority by imposing tax using the International Emergency Economic Power Acts. That includes the so called retaliatory tariffs Trump introduced last year, under which the American businesses importing a range of British goods have to pay a 10% tax which they when they reach US offshores. So, guys, I'm gonna end my stream right now. We have talked about the tariffs. I might stream again. I might talk about like a different topic. So the next stream would most probably be a UFC type of stream. And if you guys are still watching my stream, please make sure to subscribe me, please. Thank you very much. And we're just gonna get off right now. But we're gonna be streaming every day. We're gonna be discussing politics. We're gonna be discussing UFC every day, whether it's just by myself or whether it's with my one of my guests.